I think the conception of fallibility is an important one, but it has its limitations. The conception of fallibility suggests that in our beliefs, in our theories, we can be wrong. And in the philosophy of Karl Popper, for example, the great 20th century liberal philosopher of science, he suggests that rather than try to verify our beliefs, we should try and falsify them. And our knowledge grows through falsifying our beliefs, not through verifying them. Because if we only try to verify what we already believe, we'll find many, many confirmations of it. But that's just because we're looking for confirmations. We won't find the aspects of the world which contradict our beliefs. And I find that quite useful myself in some contexts, but it's not enough. I mean, it's useful to think that way. So, for example, when I argue with Marxian or leftist dogmatists, if I say communism failed in Russia, they say, and not only in Russia, but they say, well, that's because it didn't really fail. What happened was it was surrounded by capitalists, there was a civil war, there were tyrannical traditions of Tsarism, there were mistakes made. It didn't fail, the theory didn't fail. But then I say, but very similar results occurred not only in Russia, but in China and in Cuba, and in Czechoslovakia, and in Mongolia, and in all of the countries, all of the societies where Marxist theories were attempted. Rather similar results occurred. The economy was disastrously inefficient and corrupt. There was a powerful secret police which censored and persecuted dissent. Religion was attacked and persecuted. These things happened everywhere. Not just, so it can't only be Tsarism, it can't only be the Civil War. They don't accept that, they never accept that, never. 98% of the world's academics who are shaped by Marxian ideas, even if they're not Marxian dogmatists, and if you talk to a Marxian dogmatist, they'll adamantly reject it. It's pointless to talk to them because for them, it's not falsifiable. They would benefit from a dose of Popper. They would benefit for a kind of a shot of Popper, which is to say, try and falsify your basic beliefs. Try and have a look at those circumstances in the world in which you falsify them. Why is it that that the results were very similar in societies as different as Cuba and Czechoslovakia, or Mongolia and Eastern Germany? It's essentially the same results. So it's useful, but it's not a kind of this idea of falsifiability or of fallibility is not a kind of remedy for human stupidity or ignorance, because many of the worst phenomena in history are not really mistakes. They're what can instead be called folly. The great American historian Barbara Tuchman, she's not widely read today, but she's still known, and I always try and promote her work. She died a while back. But Barbara Tuchman wrote a book called The March of Folly, in which she said that many of the worst disasters in history occurred, even though it was widely known that at the time, even by some of those who committed the disasters, that the results would be disastrous. And she gives many examples. I mean, the best example at the moment, I think, is in Europe, the European Union, in which the single currency, the euro, which is an essentially flawed project, a project that could never have worked, that it was known in advance by economists, couldn't work economically, and it was known in advance, I would say, by historians, and I, among others, argued that it couldn't work because it could only work if there was a political union, but a political union is not possible in Europe. The political cultures are too different, the societies are too different, it's impossible. All of this was known, and is known, and yet the European elites, the European Brussels elites, have as their main goal the preservation of the project, the salvation of the project. That's what they want to do at any costs. The cost will be, in fact, I think, the collapse of the project. The cost has already been enormous levels of unemployment and, as I mentioned earlier, and of hardship in countries such as Greece and Portugal and Spain and Italy, among others. And already the project has produced inflamed various types of dark nationalism in many European countries. But they will persist because they have identified themselves, their reputations, their incomes, their pensions, but also even the meaning of their own lives, to some extent, is identified with the project. So they will persist with the project up to disaster and beyond. They will persist until the project. Now that's what the historian Barbara Tuchman calls folly. Now fallibility can't cure people of folly.